21 minutes past 7 o'clock for Tuesday, the 30th of September. Talofa Koso, it's great to be in your company this morning. I'm William Terite. Now, it's no secret the future of the Ministry for Pacific Peoples is under the spotlight. The Public Service Commissioner has launched a probe into where the smaller ministries, including the Ministry for Pacific Peoples, should be folded into larger departments. At the same time, fresh news is out that Auckland University has backtracked on plans to make Te Ao Māori courses compulsory for all students, sparking a heated debate about cultural learning in higher education. So, joining me for reaction on all of this is the Minister for Pacific Peoples and the Minister for Universities, Dr. Shane Reti. A very good morning to you.
Morena, Will.
Look, Minister, what's the latest in terms of this probe by the Public Service Commissioner into merging ministries like MPP? Have you heard anything?
So the Public Service Commissioner is still progressing with deliberations around how we can be more effective across all of government, and those discussions are still progressing. No matter what format the Ministry for Pacific People resolves to, it's more important to have our function rather than our form. We still need, as a ministry, to do a good job with housing Pacific people. We still need to do a good job with health. We need to do a good job with education. We need to do a good job with law and order and infrastructure and economy. So no matter what configuration we have, we will still focus on those really important functions for Pacific people.
Are you aware if there's a deadline that's been set to give that feedback to, say, Cabinet?
Yeah, no, I'm not. That's a discussion with the Public Service Commissioner.
Of course, okay. All right, just sticking with this one. Minister, is it fair to say you wanted the MPP portfolio?
Yes.
Okay, with that being said, is the merger or potential disestablishment of the ministry something that sits comfortably with you?
What sits comfortably with me is the functions that we can deliver for Pacific people. As I say, function can be more important than form, although it is important for Pacific people to be able to clearly see their voices represented, but it's what we do with that privilege that makes a difference, that touches people's lives.
I know it's purely speculative at this stage, but you touched on function there. How would, say, MPP, if it were merged into larger departments, function in your eyes?
The end endeavours and ambitions that we have, as I say, across housing, across economy, health, education, law and order, would not change. Those are still needs that Pacific people have. And so this is the point I'm making, that the function is what Pacific people will see and feel as a benefit, not necessarily the form.
Okay, and just very quickly, the New Zealand Initiative just a few weeks ago put out a report suggesting that ministries like MPP should be perhaps given to a minister that, say, looks after Home Affairs or Home Office. What do you make of that suggestion?
Oh, look, I'm sure that's something that the Public Service Commissioner is taking into account. I enjoy the privilege that I have of trying to improve the life of Pacific people with some of the tools and levers that we have with the Ministry for Pacific People.
Sure. And just speaking on trying to improve the lives of Pacific people, though, again, you've presided over the ministry perhaps at a time of great change, scrutiny for the ministry, cuts, slashes. I mean, how can you confidently suggest that this government is delivering for Pacific people?
Oh, but because if we look at our outcome measures, for example, you're a media person, this is a media outlet. If we look at some of the measures that we have, which are published in our annual report for the outcomes that we need to achieve for what we're doing in public outreach for media, for example, I'm very proud of the outcomes that this ministry has achieved. More specifically, we haven't been afraid to identify what those outcomes are so that we know that there is benefit.
What's one example, perhaps, just sticking with the theme of MPP, what's one example of you where you've sat in Cabinet and you've really pushed for Pacific initiatives?
Oh, well, I'm not going to discuss discussions that we have in Cabinet. No one would do that. That's not part of being a collective team. But discussions I have with my colleagues, for example, the Minister for Housing, Minister Bishop, we have discussions, and in fact he's visited our whare in Pororua, and the 300 homes that we're looking to build there, and indeed the 18 that we're looking to bring up before Christmas. And myself and Minister Potaka visited there about 4 weeks ago, and Minister Bishop had been there another 4 or 5 weeks before that. So those are discussions that I have with others where their portfolios and their responsibilities align with our endeavours.
Auckland University, just very quickly, has backtracked on plans to make Te Ao Māori courses compulsory for all students. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Auckland University, like all universities, have academic freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and this is an operational decision for Auckland University. But they've clearly taken on feedback from their constituency and have made an operational decision.
Certainly feedback from, students and staff, but I mean, it's undeniable as well. I mean, was this acquiescing to some sort of political pressure? Your own colleagues have spoken out against the idea of these said courses?
While they may well be able to offer a view, but at the end of the day, the university has academic freedom to make decisions, and that's what they've done.
I think one of the great shames for me growing up is I didn't have Māori in school. I mean, te reo wasn't even a subject to take in high school. I was learning Japanese and French. With that being said, though, I mean, I see the highlight and the benefits of a course like this. Do you support this initiative?
Oh, I support second languages, and clearly Māori is a official language in New Zealand, but it is an operational decision for universities as to whether they offer it. But let's be clear, those courses are still offered, and they will still be offered. They will be optional. So it's not that there's a removal of te reo. It's just that it being a compulsory subject for all those entering university, the university has decided that that will now be optional.
What was National's stance on the courses being compulsory at the time?
Our position for that is that this is a operational decision for universities and they have academic freedom.
No, fair enough. And look, there's also the question of, I mean, what does this say about cultural learning in higher education? Does it have a place, compulsory speaking, or not really?
What it has a place in is recognising that te reo is one of the three official languages, but that people have the ability to choose in and choose out of what they choose to learn in higher education and in universities, and that's how it should be.
Let's just turn our attention to cuts to the public service. Fale left nearly half its workforce in peril, some would say, and it's raised concerns over New Zealand's credibility in the Pacific. Does that sit comfortably with you in terms of the slashes to the workforce?
What sits comfortably is our ongoing funding for that initiative, bearing in mind it was a time limited 2020 to
Sure.
2025, so it was due to conclude. But in fact, the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Trade has looked to continue supporting this initiative, which supports public service servants in the Pacific, but to focus on projects that have clearly high impact. I'd also add that a number of other agencies also support public servants in the Pacific, and I have responsibility for Stats New Zealand, and we have long-standing relationships with other Pacific countries, and indeed second and provide advice, again from a statistics perspective, into the Pacific. So there are a number of agencies outside of MFAT who provide advice and assistance to significant advice and assistance to public servants in the Pacific.
Credibility in the Pacific is a point that I want to come back to in terms of, it's no denying it's geopolitical hot potato in the Pacific at the moment with China and Australia and perhaps even the United States to an extent all wanting a slice of the pie. With that being said, is it not incumbent on New Zealand to try everything in its power to at least do everything in its power to have a bit of influence and support to the Pacific in this area?
Yeah, so we box above our weight, I would suggest, in the Pacific. And indeed, you saw our recent contribution to the Pacific Islands Forum, which was the latest gathering of Pacific leaders in the Solomons. And so we are very aware of the responsibility and the privilege we have to support Pacific countries and Pacific leaders.
With fewer staff and resources, I mean, is it fair to say though that these Pacific countries that we provide support to will inevitably suffer as a result of it?
No, what's fair to say is that we're always looking to see how we can have the maximum impact for what we do in the Pacific, and this particular project is looking at doing exactly that. And I think that's what everyone would want as well, both the receivers of our contributions and the taxpayers who fund it.
It's quite a paradox, or it's quite a stunning thing at the moment to be a minister like yourself with the portfolios that you hold, and MPP in particular. I keep coming back to the point of you're presiding over a time where there are just extensive cuts being made. What do you make of these said cuts? I mean, it's hard to see. Some would argue that it would actually lead to good outcomes.
No, I would contest that. We're always wanting across all of government to look at how we can be the most effective with the spend that we have. And if we look at the outcomes for MPP, I'm very proud of what we do across a range of initiatives. I don't think anyone would contest that we should all look for efficient use of taxpayer funds and to have maximum impact with those funds. I don't think anyone would challenge that.
Yes, certainly. Just final question for you, Minister. Of course, it's Tuvalu and Language Week. Any comments from yourself?
Oh, look, one of the most memorable privileges I've had in this role was travelling with the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister Peters, to Tuvalu, and that was last year. And that was a memorable experience. I never thought in my lifetime that this thin strip of island in the middle of the Pacific would be somewhere that I would have the privilege to visit and to convey New Zealand's support, contribution, and maintain those relationships. And it just turns out one of the largest Tuvaluan cohorts is actually in my electorate here in Whangarei.
Oh, wow.
And when I was at a recent function with them, this was reminded to me that there are a large number of Tuvaluan people here in Whangarei, and I enjoyed their company here, but I also enjoyed the company of their people back in Tuvalu.
Indeed. Hey, thank you very much for your time as always, Minister. Appreciate it. That is Dr. Shane Reti. You have a wonderful rest of your day, eh?
Noho ora mai ki pai tora.